Joining us now, a member of the Committee on Foreign Relations, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator Murphy, always good to see you, sir. You made a very strong speech yesterday in which you said, in part, the UN fundamentally today is not a fair forum for Israel. You also said the U.S. policy should be to keep Israel out of harm's way at the UN. Was the Obama administration wrong to abstain on Friday at the UN?
So I don't think there should have been any surprise that the United States has continued in its longstanding objection to the Israelis building settlements in East Jerusalem or in territory outside of the 67 borders and further outside of what we call the blocks. What I think is alarming to many of us is that there are other ways to convey that objection to the Israelis than through the United Nations. The United Nations is just fundamentally not a fair forum for the Israelis, and traditionally the United States has tried to keep these resolutions at bay, if not vetoing them, at least working behind the scenes to make sure that they don't come up for a vote and expressing our objections in other forums. And so I guess I don't draw an issue with the Obama administration saying to Netanyahu that this is detrimental to a two-state solution and is detrimental to U.S.-Israeli relations. I just would have preferred that that conversation happened outside of the context of the UN, which has just, for a long time been a place that Israel is not going to get a fair look on some of these very important issues.
So why, Senator, do you think they did it then? They did it in such a big way and made such a show out of it by following it up with John Kerry's long speech yesterday explaining the abstention.
Well, I think you have to read this in the context of a very long, tumultuous relationship between President Obama and Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Netanyahu government and our government. Obviously, the nadir of that relationship came when Netanyahu appeared before the United States Congress and lobbied against a sitting United States president inside a political debate. And so maybe this is the natural extension of what has been a very dysfunctional relationship. My worry, though, is that this, in the end, may have the very opposite effect that Obama and Kerry hope, in that it may be pushing Donald Trump further and further into Netanyahu's camp, such that he is not going to be able to be an honest broker between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So in the long run, this may, actually be counterproductive to the sort of goals and the precepts of Kerry's speech yesterday.
Senator Casey Hunt, I actually wanted to ask you about that very point you were just making. To clarify, you think that Obama and Netanyahu have a dysfunctional relationship, but you think if Trump's relationship with Netanyahu continues to become closer, that will also be dysfunctional? Or do you think that there's a chance Trump could build a better relationship with Netanyahu than the current president?
Well, I certainly think that he can build a better relationship with Netanyahu, but when the United States has been most productive when it comes to trying to achieve peace, it's been when we are perceived by the Israelis and the Palestinians as being able to bring those two sides together. Now, we are always going to first, second, and third be Israel's friend, but that also means being able to criticize the Israelis when we think they're wrong and being able to bring both sides to the table. I'm just not sure that Trump is setting himself up to be able to do that.
On balance, do you think that Donald Trump is likely to have a better relationship with Israel than President Obama has?
I think he's likely to have a better relationship with Netanyahu. I think that he's clearly setting himself up for having a better relationship with Netanyahu. Whether ultimately that is going to be a relationship that helps deliver peace
and the United States?
Well, ultimately, that's certainly better for Benjamin Netanyahu. The question is whether or not he is going to be able to broker a peace agreement or be in a position to do that between both sides. And I would say I think the United States has to be friends with Israel, but we have to be in a position to bring both sides to the table. I'm just not sure that Trump is going to be in a position to do that.
Senator Bob Costa, great to see you in West Hartford. My mother's